We will continue today the discussion about the fiscal policy, and I will take a few minutes today to wind up the final part of fiscal policy. We have discussed the content of fiscal policy and how fiscal policy can be used to cast an effect on the economy, that is in order to achieve economic growth, generation of employment, reducing inequalities in income and wealth, and so on. And in the last lecture, I discussed about the some of the principles that underpin the taxation system, and I discussed the fact that modern taxation system is a compromise between the economics and political compulsions, because after all, politicians, they decide about the taxes and rate and all that. So economics there is underlying economics, but not everything is economics, because there is a political economy as well, because the representative of the people, they would like to maximize their chance of getting re-elected. So that is why the political perspective cannot be ruled out in an economic matter. Today, I will take up some of the issues regarding the fiscal policy, and we come across some terminologies like the budget, the deficit in budget, and how government is going to finance. Like in recent pandemic, when it was pointed out that the government should spend a lot of money, then some people pointed out that it may lead to increase in the fiscal deficit, and that may prove to be counterproductive. But in the current scenario, it has been even suggested by the international organization like IMF and others, that government should spend heavily in the economy so that the economy, the economic health is revived. You know that the government, the budget and the deficit and surplus. So it's very simple to understand it, and then I'll focus on how government finances if the receipts are less than the expenditure. So government's receipt, that is, receipts are both tax and non-tax revenue. That is, government receives revenue and from the taxes as well as non-taxes. Some prominent example are PSU and profit. Then government also earns some money by printing, stamp papers and all that. So other kind of non-tax revenues are also there. So this is how government, and in taxes we have direct taxes, that is income tax, and indirect tax, GST and others. So income tax is there, and corporation tax is there, that is the taxes on the profit, and indirect taxes, GST is the prime example. Apart from that, the import duties, that is tariff and other also result. Then government spend money on this, so we call outlays, that is expenditure, and expenditure on various items, how much on education, how much on defense, how much on this, various aspects are there. Government, decide how it is going to spend money on this various. So if naturally, if receipt is greater than the expenditure, that is outlay, so budget will be surplus, and if receipts are less than the expenditure, it will be a deficit, which is normally the case. And if it is equal, then it will be a balanced budget, which is a theoretical possibility normally. Now you may be a question may crop in your mind that current government have a surplus in So yes, for US government for a very long time under Clinton administration, they had a surplus budget. Their revenues were far greater than their expenditure. And but normally, especially the developing economies, emerging economies, their revenue, that is their expenditure, is greater than their receipts. So the question is that if you are spending more, that is expenditure is more than the receipts, how to finance it? So whether options are available, that they say that big borrower is steal. So government may borrow money, so not that, Then how government finances the deficit? So there are various ways government can finance it. So if you look at this diagram, then let me put an arrow here. So one way is this, and the another is, and so there are, if government is running a deficit, that is the expenditures are greater than the receipt, then so what government can do? Government can borrow it. One type of borrowing is that government can, like any other borrowing, company or other, can come in the market and issue securities, government securities, which we can call also bond. And so when government issues financial securities, so it is subscribed by the participant, and mostly banks. As you know that there is also a requirement of SLR, that all the commercial banks, they have to invest in government or government approved securities. So when government borrows, so it issues a security and the money is raised. And when money is raised, naturally government pays a rate of interest on it. But if government is borrowing more, then borrowing requirement is more, it pushes the rate of interest, because the rate of interest will go up. So this is one route which is not inflationary. But if this proves to be insufficient, that government cannot raise money from the market like any other borrower, then the other recourse is that it can approach the central bank, RBI. And RBI can print money, which is money finance, which is also called monetized finance. So what RBI will do, that RBI will print currency notes. So it is like creating money out of thin air, And you know that modern currency system is based on minimum reserve system. That government can, by keeping rupees 200 crore, 100 gold and foreign exchange reserves, the rest can print any amount of currency, not like the gold standard which was there, that it has a backing of some metal. So the currency system is based on the reserve requirement, that is a minimum reserve government has to keep it in. But government will not print large amount of money normally, because it stokes inflation. It is like a printing press, Government finances the RBI on because being the government. So if the greater this part, the greater will be, because this part which is where financed by the banks and other participants is out of the banking system. The money has been created, which is finance, which is used to buy securities. It has been created out of real economic activities, whatever money is there. So, but here that is a creation of money by printing currency notes. And if this also be proved to be insufficient, in some cases, external borrowing is also carried out. Like in 1991 crisis, government approached IMF. It pledged gold to Bank of England for borrowing. So from external sources can also be financed. And some of the major countries of the world, like in recent time, which has created crisis, is Spain and other countries. The heavy the external borrowing there. So these countries will have to be bailed out. Or Latin American countries in 1980s, external heavy, because they failed to pay in time, they would have defaulted, and therefore a bailout was, because it will lead to collapse of the financial system. Now, monetize, so the government has to keep in mind that the borrowing. So, monetized deficit is a concern. How what part of that is, even if the government is borrowing more from the market, even if, for that matter. Rabia, you have any question? Finance, so it is like printing money, that the both type of borrowing, whether you borrow from the floating securities or borrow by or get money by printing, both have required that the government has to pay rate of interest. So what has happened in recent time is that there is a concept of primary deficit, that how much you are borrowing to pay off the old debt. So a chunk of the borrowing in recent time is going for payment of the older the borrowing. That is the almost 90% of the borrowing is carried out to pay off the rate of interest of the borrowing of the past. So that is why there is a concept apart from the fiscal deficit, that is the borrowing need. How much government is also a concept, that how much you are borrowing to finance the expenditure, and how much you are using this borrowing to pay off the debt. Like, debt is a vicious cycle, So debt, rate of interest, and you borrow more and again and again. So it creates a vicious cycle if it is not used for productive purposes in the economy. And in developing economies, the borrowing requirement is much higher than the revenues. So that if borrowing is used for productive purposes, that will create asset and that will result in generation of revenues for the government in the future. But it is used for the non-asset creating activities, then it will put a burden on. So that is why in India, although in recent time those targets have been not taken into account, that Fiscal Responsibility Act is there, that the government should not borrow it. And when government is borrowing money from the market, then private borrowers are also there. So because if government is borrowing more and private borrowers are also there, that companies are there, it put pressure on the rate of interest. So government can crowd out the other borrowers and make the borrowing costlier. So that is why fiscal, the borrowing of the government fiscal is a concern and like that. But in times like these, COVID and recessionary conditions and other things, so government can resort to revive the economy in the hope that when the economy is back on rails, the revenue will be generated and government can pay off. So this is some, I know I have not gone into that detail of other aspect like this, like one aspect is, which just I will hint at, sometime a ratio is shown, how much you are borrowing. GDP is a national income, okay? So what proportion you are borrowing? Like if your income is increasing, if you're borrowing, then you can pay off. But if it is not increasing GDP, then it will create more burden. So in growing economy where GDP is rising, and even if you're borrowing, there is a likelihood that government will not default. If government default, like why Spain and other countries which have borrowed heavily, will have to be bailed out, because if they did not, if government as there is also rating which is called sovereign rating, that is what is the likelihood that the nations will pay, like the corporate rating, CRISIL and other is there. So like that. So that is why debt and other issues are, are important also in management. So fiscal policy also deals with this aspect. In my slides, I have not hinted in the beginning. I have just talked about taxation expenditure. Inevitably, whenever you talk about revenues and expenditure, the over and above the revenues, the expenditure which government, the debt enters into the picture, and that is why I wanted to just to highlight. So with this, I wind up my discussion on the fiscal policy, and I will move into fifth unit, and I will start with the topic inflation, and I will introduce today what the concept of inflation and how inflation is measured. Then I'll go on to discuss about the other aspects like the causes of inflation and uh, the impact of inflation. So, but if you have any question, I can address before I proceed to. So what I'm going to do in the last unit, which we are starting today, there are few topics which we will cover. We'll discuss about inflation. We will discuss about exchange rate determination. We will discuss about balance of payments. We will also talk about business cycles, and we will make distinction between economic growth. So these are some of the topics which we are going to cover in the last unit. So the idea is that you should be able to understand some of the major macroeconomic concepts which are part of daily discourse or discussion on in the newspaper and TV and all that. So, and when you go to third semester or fourth semester, that is in the final year, there is a course which is called business environment. So this will serve as a foundation for some further discussion about how inflation affects business in a specific term, like in, let us say, the valuation of inventories, borrowing, and so on, various other aspects like that. So specifics in the context of business will be discussed in the final year. And business environment I have taught for more than 2 decades, that paper, but now it is taken by Dr. Suburi Naseem, because I have to take other papers in finance, some new papers. So what I'm going to do today is that I will take a definition of inflation and will try to tell you how inflation is measured, with taking a very simple example which will capture the essence of the index, that is construction, and how it is measured. And then next lecture, not in this lecture, because I will discuss about the causes of inflation, what are the factors which give rise to rise in price, and in the last part of my lecture I will discuss about the impact of inflation. In ordinary language, when we will come across that if price of onion, let us say, is rising, then people say that महंगाई बढ़ गई है. So this is not inflation. In a terminology of economics, inflation is a sustained tendency of the general level of prices. Now this rise in price is not confined to one or two commodities. Rather, there is a tendency for the general level of prices to rise over a period of time. It should be distinguished from the point of time. For instance, today is 18th of May. Price rise by 200% today, and then stop rising. This period cannot be described as inflation. So it means that this tendency should be spread over a period of time, and it should be an appreciable increase, and it should be, in other words, persistent increase, and it should not remain, confined to, as I said, that price of few goods and services. Rather, a representative goods basket of goods and services should experience this rise. Then we call this phenomena as inflation. So this is a difference between what we understand in ordinary language and what we understand as an economist. So a change in one price is not inflation. A one-time jump like this is not inflation. Then the question is, how, if general level of prices, how we measure inflation? So we measure inflation by a price index. And how this price index is calculated, I will tell you I will describe this construction of index by using a very simple example. In essence, this simple example and the actual calculation, they are same. But the only difference is that the number of commodities are much larger in the actual index construction and this example. So the index, in order to arrive at the measure whether price have increased or decreased over a period of time, so an index is constructed. Actually, index is a weighted average of number of prices of goods and services. It requires some background information. Let me tell you. Like, in order to construct this weight, what is done, that a survey is conducted. And please remember that entire government machinery is there which calculates. A survey may be conducted asking people what proportion you spend on some various, let us say, on food, let us say on shelter and medical care. Just an example. What proportion of you spend on this? Let us say that people say that 20% on food, 30% on this, and 50% of this. It means that 20% is the 0.2 is the weightage, and 0.3, that is the. Why weightages are important? That is the amount of money. Because if price of food rise, because if medical care rise much, then because it consumes major proportion, they will be affected more. That is why the weightages are there. And this shows the importance of each good. And in order to construct a base year, index, a base year is selected. Base year should be, which acts as a benchmark, should be of normal rise in price. Not that you take a base year because the comparison will be from that year, neither very excessive rise in price or moderate level of price. So base year is selected. And weightages are assigned according to this. And the price in the base year is set at 100. So let us go further and understand by taking a concrete example. You can change the year because this is an example, So a survey before this has been conducted, and toward 2013 is taken as a base year because it is the year of normal rise in price. So the survey point out that people spend 20% on food, 50% on shelter, 0.5, and 30% of their expenditure on medical care. So, and this is set as 100 in the base year. If you multiply 0.2, it will be 20, 50, 30, and this will come out to be. Now this will act as a benchmark, the base year, against which the rise in price will be measured. And please remember that the base year is changed, because if you now say 1960 as a base year, so regularly government changes also the base year because the comparison year. And so now let us assume that in the year 2014, price of food increase. When I say food, please remember that in actual price index there are more than 500 commodities, representative sample. Okay, so I am using a generic word here. Price of food went up by 2%. So let us say that from 100 it went up to 102. So if you multiply by the importance, that is the weightage, it will be 20.4. Shelter price went up by 5%. So it went up from 100 to 105. So multiply by the weightage. Medical care price went up by 10%. So it will be 110. So 0.3. So if you add all these things by multiplying, it will be. So price went up, the index with the from in 2014 is 100.599. Now, in order to find out how much price have gone up from 2013, so the formula is very simple: change divided by starting point. So rate of inflation is calculated as this year's price index, that is 105.9, minus last year's price index divided by this. This is the change, and this is the starting point, that is the base year. So it will come out to be 5.9%, 0.0. So you can convert it, will be like. So this is, that is the price have gone up by 5 point in comparison to 2000. Now, for example, comes 2015, 16, 17 and 21, let us say. The base year is still, let us say, 20. Now, at any point of time, if you want to find out, just take the index at that point. Let us say index is 150.2 in 21. Then minus this index 149.8 divided by starting point. You will get the rate of inflation at that point. So anything at any point of time, one can find out the rate. So this is how inflation is calculated. This example and the real life, the calculation is similar. Only difference is that the number of goods and services is much larger. Earlier in India, a WPI, wholesale price index, was taken as a benchmark. Now the government has moved, the RBI has moved on to here. Please mute yourself, okay? Otherwise I will have to check it who is behind this rise in price, rise in voice, not price. Muhammad, who is this? Saman Khan or Samnan Khan? Okay. So and Yash Goel. So you are attending lecture under the tree? Okay. So the rise in price is in the year is like this. So the actual exam, the real calculation, and is now some student may ask a question that the importance may also change. Actually, this weightage, if you take in 2009 a certain year, and the importance may change. So that is correct. But you know that in a very short period of time, the importance does not change much. So actually, every year one government should carry out a survey, and because it's a costly proposition that to conduct a representative survey and find out how much a typical consumer is spend on various items, and that is why. For instance, yes, Sana.
So, what is the criteria of taking this base price as 100? Do we have to every time take it as 100 or is it
Now,
change accordingly?
this is the base year is set at 100 because against this benchmark, we measure the rising price. The criteria, if you read the, if you are some of you maybe from a statistics background, they may be knowing this, that base year, why we set at 100? Because now we measure it that how much price has gone up in a particular year. For example, 2020, you take a base year, so you set at 100. Then you find out in 2000 how much price has gone up. So we are measuring it by this, okay? So that how much percentage, by what percentage the price has gone up. The criteria for selecting a base year is that base year should be a moderate rise in price, not excessive rise, maybe 2 or 3% or 4% maximum. Like in India, the RBI has set 2 plus, the 4 plus minus 2%, like this benchmark. So it should not be more because the moment you cross double digit, another if you take a base year which is more than to the rise in price is 15% or 20%, then that will not serve as a right benchmark. So that is why it is set at 100. Now we see that from here how much price has gone, what percentage has gone up, and that is why this comparison is. This is the reason why. Otherwise, if you do not set it as 100, technically speaking, then how can you measure it? How can you arrive at that the what by what percentage the price has gone up? So if you multiply by the, it will be naturally. If you set anything as 100, it will be 100. Now against this, we are measuring it. That is the reason why we do it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Now, if you look at the terminology of inflation, I will not go into the detail. The terminology of inflation is laden with the terms like galloping, creeping, runaway, hyper, various terminologies are there to describe inflation. So in next lecture, I will discuss about the types of inflation and the causes of inflation and the impact of inflation in my next lecture. So right now I can discuss it, but I think let's postpone it to next class when we meet.